So what we're talking about today is I'm going to give you 5 tips, the must know things about starting your own business without sacrificing your sanity. Okay, so you're thinking about starting your own business, but feeling completely overwhelmed. Like, what does that look like? What is the first step? I have no idea how to grow a business. I've never done this before. All the things. And before you're even able to get started, your head's exploding with ideas and concerns and fears and all the things, right? If so, I want to assure you that you're not alone. Everybody starts at the beginning. And then, of course, for us military spouses, if you've got kids, you've definitely got PCS moves, military life's unpredictability, field time for the spouse, deployments, all of the things, right? It's easy to think, how am I ever going to make this work? Is there ever going to be space for me to do the thing that I want to do? I know, because I promise you, I've been there. I spent a significant portion of time in that space, frustrated, a little resentful, not because my husband did anything wrong or because he wasn't supporting me, but because I had given up something, a career, and didn't know where to go next. And there was just this simmering resent under the surface. He's doing this awesome thing, this thing that I'm so proud of him for, and I'm not doing anything noteworthy. Not to say that being a mom, being a military spouse isn't noteworthy, but let's be honest, we get really hard on ourselves. And especially when we start comparing ourselves to what our spouse is doing, our service member is doing, thinking, I'm not doing anything of no, I'm not doing anything important, or what I want isn't as important as what they're doing. So it's not my time yet, right? I promise you, I know all of these things because these are my own thoughts that I'm sharing with you right now. I've been there. And now I'm on the other side of that. So I want to assure you, keep rocking with me because I promise you there is a way to what you want right now, not when your spouse gets out of the military, not when if you're a mom, not when your kids graduate and move out of the house. There is a way for you to do that thing right now. And I'm going to walk you through the steps so it feels attainable and not overwhelming. So what we're talking about today is I'm going to give you 5 tips, the must know things about starting your own business without sacrificing your sanity. So let's start with Why. That's actually a really incredible book. If you haven't read it, I suggest reading it. Start with Why by Simon Sinek. Great read. Okay, on that note though, seriously, what does that mean? Start with why. Define your why. What is your why? You've maybe heard people say this before, maybe you haven't, but let me explain it to you anyways. So whenever you're getting ready to start something big and important, be it a new business, a New Year's resolution for that matter, a big goal of some sort, it is so important to understand your deep why behind why you're doing the thing. And why it's important to know that is because when you do know that, that is the thing that is going to keep you showing up when things get hard. So when your spouse goes on deployment, when your kids are homesick from school, or maybe not even that, because we get to take days off, right? Things happen, but let's not use that example. Let's say like your kids are home for summer break and suddenly your schedule is in a tailspin, right? And it's harder to show up and do the thing. Tough days, because we all have them. Just don't feel like getting out of bed on time, sitting down at the desk, all of these things, right? Knowing your why and being intimately associated with that why, that is a thing that is going to drive you and propel you on those tough days during those phases of life that seem like everything is working against you. Knowing your why will drive you forward. So how do we find that why? So all right, so let's go back to starting a business, right? Because that's why we're here. So when we think about the idea of starting a business, ask yourself, why do you want to start a business? So most of us have a general concept of why. We want extra income for the family. I need the flexibility because of our lifestyle. I want to have a sense of purpose outside of being a mom or a military spouse, okay? So let me tell you that those are not bad. Those are a foundation. This is where we start. That is not a why that is going to get us out of bed. Especially if I want a second income for my family, but we're eating, we have a roof over our heads. So do you really feel that pressure? Perhaps not. So is it the thing that's going to drive you into your day or make you do the things on the tough day? Maybe not. But it's a foundation. It's where you start. So let's say, for example, it is because you want extra money for your family. You want to have another income. Why? So you continue to ask, each time you come up with a response to why, you continue to dig deeper. Okay, now I understand that, but why? Why do I want that? All right, and so you dig several layers deeper. When you start to spark, you get that emotional, that's stirring, right? It might be it drives you to tears. It might be like it just suddenly propels you into excitement, whatever it is, you get that emotional stirring. Now you know you're onto something. Now you know you are really close, if not there, to identifying your why. And that works with anything, whether it's extra income, more flexibility, something special for your family. Why do you want to do that thing? It has to be very deep seated for it to really be the thing that you come back to and drives you into those tough days or those tough phases of life. So start with your why. Why do you want to start this business? Now, here's my encouragement today. Don't just take this knowledge and store it away for later. Implement it now. Maybe not right this second while you're watching this video, but as soon as you wrap up here, start to write down why, dive in. Now, the last thing I want to share with you actually before we move forward is you might not get there today. If you start writing your why now and you're trying to dig, but you're really not getting to that deep core of it, it might not come today, and that's okay. You might need to come back to it tomorrow and or next week and continue to work on it. But as long as you give it your attention and your energy, you will discover what your why is. Now, having this why as to why you want to start your business, why you want to make this major shift in your life, it's a beautiful exercise, because then once you do start your business, you're going to build more whys. I have a why for I started my business, a why for why I started my business. I also have a why for why I serve the audience that I serve, why I serve military spouses. I know why I serve military spouses at my core. If I dive in and I start talking to people about why I do that, why I show up for this particular group of women, I get emotional because it matters. That is how I know that I have found my why. So you will continue to build these whys for all of the big things that you do in life, all of the big choices. You build those whys, and those are what keeps you showing up and remind you why you do what you do. It reminds you why this is important to you. Alrighty, so the next tip that I'm going to share with you, this is tip 2 if you're tracking, put it on paper. So when you're just diving into the idea of wanting to start a business, there's so much chaos up here. All of the ideas, there's so many of them floating around. And do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? What does that look like? What is the first step? How does that work in my life? How do I make that work? All of these things, right? The first step you need to understand is it's chaos in here. For almost all of us, it is chaos in here. So get it out on paper. When you put it out on paper, it allows you to see things more clearly. So the first thing is you really are quieting the mind. You really are alleviating everything that's collecting up here and just causing that, overwhelm or, oh my gosh, this is too much, right? When you get it out on paper, you clear that space in your mind. And so that brings down your stress level, and literally you can think more clearly about these things. Now, when it's on the paper, you actually start to see it differently. You see it different on paper than you do in your head. And so you get more clarity around what's happening. You can start to dive deeper into the things that matter without worrying about forgetting some of the other stuff, because you've got it there on your paper to come back to later when you need to. That is literally as simple as it is with tip 2. So tip 3 is make time for your business without sacrificing your family. So the statistics show that a vast majority of military spouses are also stay-at-home moms. Now, you might not be a mom, and that's okay. That doesn't mean that this isn't for you as well. You might be a homemaker, or somebody who's looking to just leave their 9 to 5 because this feels like a better path for you. So all of this still applies to you, I want to assure you. But there's a concern here about, if I am running the home and caring for the family, how do I fit this thing in as well on top of everything else? And so the thing that I want to share with you here around this is start with what you have. Time-wise, do you need to decide that you're going to have a business and full-fledged jump into 40-hour work weeks or 80? Some people go even beyond that and want to make all of it work so quickly and just fully, propel themselves into it. And it's 60-hour work weeks or more. And I'm going to tell you, that is a really good way to burn yourself out quickly and just exhaust yourself. And before you know it, you're like, I can't, this is not it for me. It is too much. Please don't do that to yourself. Start where you are. So if what you have available right now to you is 5-10 hours a week, maybe you have itty bitty ones at home and you can't. So let me back up. I started when I had one of my 2 at home with me still. And so I understand that sometimes you need to be strategic about finding those pockets of time. Now both of my kids are in school. So I have decided that my work hours are the hours that they're in school. Of course, there's the need for the flexibility when they've got their breaks, spring break, fall break, summer break, all of those things. When they're sick, things need to shift. There's always going to be that need for flexibility, which is the beauty behind having your own business, because then you can figure out what to do with that flexibility. But let me bring it back to where I was. When I started my business, I had a lot less time than I have today. So if you're finding that what you have is 5 hours, don't convince yourself that that's not enough to get started. I promise you, what you can do in those 5 hours is beautiful when you are specific and intentional about those 5 hours. When during those 5 hours, the only thing you're doing are your work-related tasks, you'd be amazed at what you can accomplish during that time. So just because you've got family, maybe you have kids, you have a military lifestyle, and it is so unknown and there's so much chaos going on for you, does not mean that there's not time for you. Now, if this concerns you still, if you have trouble managing your time, there's no shame there. Some people thrive, some people, that's not their zone of genius, and that is absolutely okay. If you have trouble managing your time and you need some help in figuring out how to make these hours work for you, please reach out to me. Drop a comment and say time management, and you and I can have that discussion. We can figure out what that looks like for you. But one of my favorite mottos, I know, totally cliche, and I don't care. Where there's a will, there's a way. I believe that if you want it, it is yours. And we will find the way for that to happen. Okay, now with that said, let's move on to tip 4. So tip 4 is focus on progress, not perfection. I know this isn't new advice, and it's not intended to be. It's intended to solidify that advice. So if you have a tendency, like myself, to feel like everything's got to be perfect, I've got to have everything in line, this needs to be killer, right? It's got to be the most amazing thing before I can take steps forward. Let's get rid of that. You're never going to progress in the way that you want to progress with that mindset. I'm not shaming you. I promise I'm not. I have a lifelong relationship with perfectionism, but I promise you, when you start to tame the perfectionist in your head and quiet it down and focus on progress and allow yourself to do the thing messy, to do it imperfectly, to make mistakes, to accept that mistakes are part of the process, and that is how we all learn and build and grow. And no matter how much you grow, mistakes are still going to happen because you're human. So much more is going to happen for you. You're going to start to relieve the stress that perfection puts on you, and you're going to start to show up more confidently, because guess what? I made a mistake just now, and I'm okay with that. And that is going to be the way that you see things. And it's going to allow you to continue to move without getting stuck behind the, oh my gosh, what just happened? Who's going to judge me? I can't believe that just happened. So, progress, not perfection. Now, the final tip that I have for you today is build your support system. So, there's so many levels to this. Let's just say that being a business owner, especially when it's just you, when you're a solopreneur, it can feel very lonely and isolating. Military lifestyle can feel very lonely and isolating for so many reasons. I don't think I have to identify those for you. I'm willing to bet as a military spouse, you have felt a lot of them. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of having your community. It can be really easy to dive into life and just get into the day in, day out habits and routines and keep moving forward. And then before you know it, you look around and life has gotten tough and you're not sure who to lean into. There is really not a whole lot of feelings that are worse than not knowing where to turn when you're having a tough time in life. I promise I've been there too. With the number of military moves that I have had in my own military service and then alongside my husband in his career, I know that with each move, you need to start over and build your community. And when we neglect that because it's hard or overwhelming, or there just doesn't feel like there's the time, at some point it catches up for you, catches up with you. So the encouragement here is build your support system. You're going to need it. Now, I realize that's easier said than done, as is most things in life, easier said than done. And it can be a lot easier for people who tend to be more social or extroverted. So I'm not going to tell you that if you're an introvert, just pretend to be extroverted, be more like the extroverts. I'm not going to tell you that. That's horrible advice. I've heard people say that, and I think it's horrible. Be who you are. Build your community in the way that makes sense to you. Do it at the pace that makes sense to you, but please do it. If you know that what you want to do is start a business and you want to surround yourself with women who are starting businesses or women who have already done it, who can maybe serve as mentors and guides for you, then I have an incredible network of resources and women that I can introduce you to. And I am so happy to do that as a fellow military spouse, business owner, and business builder. I am happy to bring you into those communities and help you to build those communities that make sense for you. So by all means, please let me know in the comments if this is something that you need support in, and I am happy to do that for you. So, and just so you know, there's a lot of ways to do that. You can do that in person. You can do that online. Online, there's so many different ways to do it. And it doesn't have to look like being on Facebook or whatever it is you think it has to look like that maybe you have been separating yourself from because you don't want to do that thing. I really think that we can find a way for you. So don't sit in it by yourself. Reach out. I'm extending an olive branch. Please grab onto that and let's move you forward. Alrighty, with all of that said, final tip of encouragement here is if being a business owner is on your heart, there is a way forward for you today. Not someday, not when your spouse retires or gets out of the military, not when your kids go off to school. There's a way for you to do it today in the way that aligns with your lifestyle without having to throw out of balance all of the other things, without having to set aside the most important things like our relationships with the people that we love. There's a way for you to do all of the things that are important to you in the amounts that are appropriate for your lifestyle. So don't let that stop you. Now, I am curious, which of the things that I talked about today hits home for you the most? Drop a comment and let me know, because I really want to hear where you're at in your journey, where you need support or where you're thriving. Either way, I love to support. I also love to cheerlead. So let me know. So if you're serious about starting your business and you need more guidance, I have a free ebook that I would love to share with you. It's called More Than Mom, From Stay-at-Home Mom to Entrepreneur. And it is these steps to help you move forward, but make the mindset shifts that you need to go from being a person who stays at home and runs the household to being a person that also is growing a business that means something to her as well. And that needs to take a priority. And I'm going to drop that link in the description for you.